Good morning everyone, today is a discussion video regarding the reward system in NGS. But before we jump into all of that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the very first thing I want to go over is today is premium user PSO2 day, so please make sure to actually pick up your free star gems as well as your special scratch tickets, but more importantly, also go break all of your randomite. Remember, today is the only day where you get that extra 50% rare drop rate since it's premium user PSO2 day, but it only applies to premium users, okay? If you're free to play, you do not get this extra 50% RTR, but nevertheless, if you haven't broken your randomite yet, you should definitely do that, because remember, they will respawn right after maintenance, so please make sure to do that first. Alright, with that announcement out of the way, the next thing I want to talk about is of course today's subject, and that is the reward system. So something that has been brought to my attention, and I kind of just realized it a couple days ago, was actually Malevolent Darkfall's Aegis actually drops less Aegis souls than the Urgent Quest version and the Trigger version of Darkfall's Aegis, which kind of blows my mind. Because the Urgent Quest version, sure, you could argue that that is, it's rare, it comes up occasionally, and it's kind of to incentivize people to run it by giving you a massive amount of rewards of these Aegis souls. However, the Trigger version you can run whenever you want, and it also rewards you with 3 Aegis souls per run. The thing that blows my mind is Malevolent Darkfall's Aegis, which is the super high difficulty one, only rewards you 1 Aegis soul per run, versus the Trigger version and the Urgent Quest version, which gives you 3 per run. And the Urgent Quest version as well as the Trigger version is a lot easier, a lot more forgiving, and a lot faster. So I really think Sega kind of missed the mark here on like, hey, the reward system in a game should reward players for doing higher difficulty content. The harder the content it is, the more rewards you should get. That's kind of the logic in like every other video game. So I really think Sega needs to go back to the drawing board and re-look into this, because regardless of how much rare drop rate boost that they throw at the game, if the fundamentals are flawed, it doesn't matter. Another example we can look at is of course the Flugogard weapon series. Sure, the rare drop rate for that was awfully low at the very beginning when it was initially released, and then so they buffed it. They gave us a 100% RDR boost initially, and people still complained it still wasn't enough, so they put it to 200% now. And even right now at 200%, I still don't think it's good enough per se. Like sure, some people are getting it and it is dropping a lot more often, but I don't think the solution is to just buff rare drop rate. I think the solution is they do need to go back to the drawing board and see what works and what doesn't work and what the community actually wants, and kind of work around that. I know the community is pretty divided, some people like extra rare drop rate, some people like the Sanguine weapons with a guaranteed weapon you get and then you slowly upgrade it, and I really think that Sega could take the best of both worlds and kind of mash them together and see what works like that. I just kind of think that at the end of the day, the reward system itself is a little bit flawed, and that they kind of need to look at that as the core issue first, and after they realize what the problem is, or after they solve that issue, then you can increase the rare drop rate and increase all the other boosters and get all these different campaigns to entice people to farm and blah blah blah. Because at the moment, if the core issue isn't solved, even if you add all of these band-aid solutions, it's not gonna solve the core issue at the end of the day. Like after all of these campaigns go away, after this rare drop rate boosters go away, all of that stuff, the issue still remains. X item is still super rare. To farm for endgame capsules is still an absolute slog. And so there's just so many issues that I really hope that Sega looks into. I don't expect them to fix any existing issues, like, Malevolent Darkfall's Aegis only dropping 1 Aegis soul. It seems like a pretty simple fix, just increase it to 5 per run and that's it, and they could call it a day. But I don't think Sega's going to do that, because Sega tends to not really fix like old problems that often, or when they do fix it, it's kind of like outdated content already. So I just hope that they fix new content when the new stuff comes out, that they learn from these mistakes and then they don't do it again. So as we all know, next month we are getting new armors and new weapons. You know, is the rare drop rate for those weapons going to be abysmal? How are we going to be able to obtain it? Is it going to be like the Sanguine weapons where you can get the base weapon incredibly easily, but in order to limit break it and get it all the way to its ultimate form, it's going to be a progression like a slog or whatever? Like they need to kind of look into this, go back to the drawing board, rework the whole drop rate and reward system, and kind of give us a new model. I think that is probably the best thing to look at. I do understand that they are trying to keep their roots with, you know, just Phantasy Star in general, where they are super rare items with super powerful augments and affixes and passives and stuff like that. And I do think that they should probably still do that, but it should be like, okay, everyone's gonna get this base weapon for free or relatively easily. So everyone has a baseline, right? And once you hit that baseline, for example, the Vershmel weapons, right, with this current seasonal event, everyone has a Vershmel weapon with the PSO2 Termina. That is the baseline. So no matter how casual you are, you're going to get this weapon. And then if you want to aim higher, you can aim for a Fixa 5, so forth and so on. But I don't think that is enough. I feel like, sure, aiming for fixes, higher fixes, stuff like that is nice, and there is sort of a progression system of just smashing weapons together, but I don't find that very engaging and very fun in my personal opinion. I kind of wish that we had a different system where it's like, oh, when you level up this weapon, it changes the look cosmetically, or it changes how the weapon potential works, or gives you new passives and stuff like that. So let's say, for example, you get a Flugelguard weapon to drop. You're like, oh my gosh, I finally got a Flugelguard weapon. Maybe there are other ways to upgrade your Flugelguard weapon other than just enhancements, augments, as well as weapon potentials. Maybe Sega can add in other ways to augment your weapon, to personalize your specific Flugelguard weapon so that it fits your personal playstyle and makes it unique. I would really like to see that, being able to change the cosmetic look of my Flugelguard weapon, change its aura, change its damage, change its weapon potential, and just let me customize a little bit of that weapon and let me go to the extremes of that. So for example, I really like the Vershmel weapons with its 100% crit rate. You know, maybe later down the line, I'll be able to transfer that weapon potential onto my Flugelguard weapon because I like the stats of the Flugelguard weapon, but I want that 100% crit rate. And maybe add in a very difficult way or a very grindy way in order to remove the debuffs of that weapon potential of the Vershmel weapons, you know, the negative 14% potency. Maybe Sega can add in a way where you can remove negative parts of weapon potentials and you can mix and match different weapon potentials, and that way you can make like the ultimate weapon. And obviously, you know, don't make it super easy, but at least have a clear progression path where people can be like, yo, I want to play the game today because I know what I need to do. There's stuff that I need to farm for, there's stuff that I want to do in order to make my perfected build. That's just something that I really wish we had in NGS right now. It's like, okay, you know, maybe I can make a very specific build that fits my playstyle. It might not be the most meta defining thing, but if I invest enough time, if I invest enough resources into it, I can refine it and make that build work in like endgame content and still be quote unquote competitive. You know, I kind of wish we had some sort of system like that. A great example that I could use would be something like the Paragon system in some games where it's like after you get to max level, you can still over level and you get extra points where you can put into like specific stats. So it kind of gives you a quote unquote end game where you're constantly farming for stuff because you know that the time that you're investing into the game is not being wasted as you are getting stronger in one way or another. So that is something that I would really like to see introduced into NGS, where it's like, sure, you've gotten max level, you've gotten all of your weapons and your armors, and you've got all of your augments. What's the next step? Why should you keep playing? Because right now, once you hit endgame, there's really nothing to do other than just quote unquote farming for the future. You're just farming for more Meseta, you're farming for more future augments, you're farming for just all the endgame augments so that when the new armors drop and the new weapons drop, you can immediately min-max it. And then you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs and you're just farming the same thing for the sake of becoming richer. That's kind of the only real end game that you have right now in NGS, which is a little bit unfortunate because, you know, I kind of want life skilling from like Black Desert, you know, I kind of want farming, I want fishing, I want other things to do. But the thing is, just by adding in fishing isn't going to solve anything. Just adding gathering isn't gonna fix anything either. You kind of need a system behind that incentivizes people to actually do these activities. For example, like a cooking system where you can cook buffs for players. That's something that I would really like to see. So for example, I go fishing, I go gathering, I go hunting, I do all of these different quote-unquote life skill things because it allows me to get all of these resources and I can cook it and I can create buffs that the game normally does not offer, and I can sell this to players in order to generate Meseta, or I can use it for myself or give it to my friends and stuff like that. So it's creating a secondary economy in the current game. Because in the current game, if you want to make money, it's pretty simple. It's like, okay, if you're free to play, you just go to a PSE combat zone, you farm raw Meseta. If you have premium or you have access to the shop, then it's farming all of the high value items that people actually want. And it just so happens, who has all the Meseta? The whales have all the Meseta. So basically, you just gotta see what they want. If they want high-end endgame capsules, that's what you farm. If they want fashion pieces, that's what you invest in. So forth and so on. And it's very linear. It's kind of very boring, personally, in my opinion. I kind of wish we had a little bit more, different avenues in order to make money, different avenues to stimulate the economy and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the reward system, right? They could add fishing, they could add all of these cool things, but if all of the rewards is still equally as bad as like the Flugelguard series or like the Rugged series back in the day, nobody's gonna do it because it's like, oh yeah, you can craft this buff that gives you 50% more damage, but the drop rate for this fish that you need is 0.0001%. Like, sure, maybe the first week people might go crazy and go fish for it, but after that, people are just going to give up because the drop rate is awfully low and there's just no sense of progression, and the reward system just sucks. And so I really do hope that Sega does go back to the drawing board and look into this and solve the core issue before looking into anything else. But at the end of the day, this is all just my personal opinion. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think?
Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again.
But anyway, that's all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it interesting. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!